talking about. All right. Now, the way to get started with talking about the Eightfold Noble Path of the Buddha is to make a step back into why there is an Eightfold Noble Path, that it's actually part of the Four Noble Truths. And the Four Noble Truths, succinctly stated, is just nothing but, in the Pali, dukkha, dukkha, nirodha. In English, I would translate that as to don't worry, be happy. Don't be shy, just be happy. All right. Why? Because worry and shyness are dukkha. They're unsatisfying, unsatisfactory. And the whole teaching of the Buddha is to see our dissatisfactions and come out of it immediately, right here and now, to come out of our dissatisfactions and become satisfied. All right. If you understand that dukkha, dukkha, nirodha, or dissatisfaction, and seeing it and coming right out of it, that's actually the Four Noble Truths, that we have to be able to build the skill of being able to see what is dukkha, and then to be able to see the cause of dukkha. Now, in fact, the most important thing that we can say about the cause of dukkha is that everybody manufactures their own dukkha. Doesn't come from the outside, doesn't come from other people, but it comes within one's own mind. We create all of our own suffering. Tsunamis don't create suffering. People who get caught stupidly in tsunamis, they suffer because they don't like all the water rushing in on them. But it's the fact that they don't like it. If they, in fact, liked all that water rushing in on them, then it'd be okay. We'll just surf. So that's the second noble truth that's so important and is always founded in stupidity or ignorance, mostly delusion. We think things should be one way, and in reality, there's something else. And so that's the source of dukkha right there, is that things in reality don't match up to our standards, which means that our standards are delusional because they don't match reality. And we can change standards fairly easily. You can't change reality. So the third noble truth then is the easy one, but they rarely talk about it. And that is, what is it like to be free from dukkha? The freedom from dukkha is to be in a state of satisfaction. Everything's okay. I got it. It's not some highfalutin way out there in the outer space kind of enlightenment. It's not total blissed out. It's just being okay with things the way that they are. And when you understand that, then the Eightfold Noble Path becomes doable. So long as you're thinking that the third noble truth is so far away that you'll never get there, then the path to there is irrelevant. A lot of people, in fact, have the idea that the goal is far away. That's why they call it a path, the path to the goal, like a bicycle path or an elephant path or trail or whatever. And that the reality is that it's a bad translation. A much better word would be way, because we can say the way to do things, like the way to thread a needle. You got the needle and the thread right here. There's a way to do it. We don't even call it a path. An even better word would be method. There's a method to follow, and that method is done right here, right now. It's not a path way out into nowhere. It's a method right here, right now. So I give you this analogy. Imagine that the door to freedom is right in front of you. It's not 100 million miles away or even 10 miles away. It's not a path to the door. The door is already right here. The method is to find the key to put the key in, turn the latch, and open the door. That's all there is to it. That's the third noble truth, is to be able to see the dukkha and change it. Okay? Now, the next thing that we can talk about is that there are two paths. There is the Buddhasasana, or let us say the Buddhist religion, the path that almost everybody talks about, the path that, in fact, you'll probably hear most about at the Wat, the ordinary path, has the quality of Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Sila, Samadhi, Panya means that you've learned to behave yourself, your Sila, your morality. This is where all the precepts come from. This is where they teach the beginners. And when your morality is good, then we get the mind fixed. And the mind fixed then would be to settle the mind down. And then the third, Panya, means wisdom, which is actually a purification of view. So purification of one's behavior is Sila. Purification of the mind is Samadhi. And then purification of one's view is wisdom. Now, when we say view, I actually mean viewing, because this is where things really begin to make a big difference. There is also another eightfold path, and this is the one that is called noble. And it's noble because it starts with wisdom, and then with samadhi, and ends up in a sila. And so let me explain to you what I mean. Is that there are a lot of practices of meditation. There is one in the West called the Mahasi method, perhaps the monk that you're talking about of 20 years, the Western monk in Minnesota, will talk about the Mahasi method. Now, the Mahasi method is called noting, where we note and note and note and note. And that's an ordinary kind of thing to do. A better way, though, the noble path, is to remember to look, to see clearly, and then to make a change. That's the big difference, is the noble right effort to make a change. So that takes wisdom, is to be able to see what's there and make a change. And so this is the path of the Buddha that is better taught, but mostly it's the ordinary path that is taught. It's taught to children, it's taught to beginners, it's taught, and sometimes that's the only thing that the teacher ever learns would be the ordinary path. However, there is a noble path where everything is upside down. Okay, and so let's repeat that. Sila Samadhi Panya is the ordinary path. Panya Samadhi Sila is the noble path. And anyone can start immediately onto the noble path. All right. And so here's how it goes is that we have a thing called sati. And that word sati is translated into English as the word mindfulness. Not a good word, not a good choice. The word sati actually has the quality to remember to come to this present moment, to remember to be here, to remember to look at what's happening right now. If you remember to look at what's happening right now, then the third item on the Eightfold Noble Path, the noble path, is right noble effort. The right noble effort, then, is to change the thought, to be able to see the thought as unwholesome and to change it. Like I am shy, and the way to answer that is, oh, shyness is something that happens with children, and I'm a big boy now. No need to be shy. I'm already okay. All right. So shy is an unwholesome term. I'm already okay. That's wholesome. And we have to take the noble effort to change from being shy, being broken, being unfit, being unworthy into I'm okay. To change, in fact, from being a victim into being a winner. This is the change, and it needs to be done in all four aspects. And the four aspects are called the Satipatthana, all four foundations. Now, the four foundations of your existence is your body, your feelings, your mental states, and then the mental verbiage, the content of the mind. These are the four things. And the way that we start with Anapanasati, with these four things, is to see that the thought that we're having is unwholesome and to change that thought. If we start changing our thoughts one after another, then we'll begin to change our attitude. If we change our attitude, we'll begin to change the way we feel. Now, you probably thought and had the mental attitude of being shy to the point that you actually feel shy. So the way out of it is start talking to yourself about not being shy. Then you get the attitude that you're not shy, and pretty soon you don't have feelings of being shy. You have the feelings that everything is okay. Now, the word shy actually has a whole lot of fear built into it. So thoughts of fear lead to attitudes of fear, which lead then to feelings of fear. And you can actually start then telling yourself everything is okay, everything is safe, there's no problem, there is no danger. Even if they laugh at me, there's still no danger. Their laughter is not going to kill me. I'm a pretty tough dude. Laughter doesn't kill me. All right. So this is actually now the noble path. The noble path is to make a change out of the unwholesome in the mind objects and then the mind states and then the feelings. Meanwhile, we work with the body also by becoming aware of our breath. But in fact, if you're thinking about your breath, then that's a whole lot better thing to think about than, oh, poor me, they laughed at me. Oh, poor me, they laughed at me is an unwholesome thought. But taking a deep, long breath, everything is okay, everything is fine. And so if we can relax the body, then we can relax our attitude, we can relax our language, and we can relax our feelings. All four of these things go together. And it all comes with changing our unwholesome thoughts and unwholesome mind states so that we can change our feelings into wholesome feelings so that you feel safe, secure, comfortable, and then satisfied. And when you feel satisfied, when you feel satisfied, when you have the attitude of being satisfied, when you have thoughts of being satisfied, when your body's posture is a satisfying posture, that's all the Buddha teaches. Doesn't teach magic. Nibbana is not somewhere way off into the future. Let me give you a good example of what we mean by Nibbana. You know that when you have your car out on the road, that the engine gets hot, it needs a radiator, it needs a fan, the tires get hot. When you're doing braking, the brakes get hot. Everything about the car gets hot, right? When it's out on the road, everything about the car gets hot. When you bring the car home and get out of the car and go to the house, the car is still hot, but it will cool off over time. Over a few minutes' time, it will cool off. So if you get your mind out of the heat when you get your thoughts out of the heat, when you get your feelings out of the heat, when you get your body out of the heat, then it's naturally everything is going to cool off. Nibbana is not a magical word. It's just a matter of cooling off once you take the heat away. Just taking the heat away is not enough. When you take the heat away, the heat that's left has to dissipate. And this is what is referred to as nibbana. That you want to eat your food, and not when it comes right out of the oven, when it's too hot. You want to let it cool off a bit. You know what it's like when you've eaten pizza that's too hot. How about fried chicken? You pull it right out of the fryer and you try to bite, you can't bite it. It's too hot. Right? You've taken it out of the fire, but it's still too hot. You have to let it cool. And so this is all the word nibbana means. That's what another word that we have is the word enlightenment. You've surely heard of that word. Okay. I'll give you two definitions of the word enlightenment that work together. It has to do with the word light. The first one is shining a light on it, taking a look, investigating, see the daylight. And once you can see it, once you have knowledge of it because you did shine a light on it, now you can see that it's heavy and you can drop it. And once you dropped all of your burdens, like your shyness, that's a pretty heavy thing to carry around, is shy. Shy is heavy. And when you set it down, now you become light, not heavy. And so these are the two kinds of enlightenment. One is to take a look, and then the other one is to drop the burden. Easy to do. You can become enlightened right now. Just drop the shyness and be okay. You've already seen the shyness. Now you can just drop it and be okay. This is the Eightfold Noble Path. Now, there's some few things that we've talked about, only 3 items. The 3 items is to remember sati, to be here now so that you can see what's happening right here, right now, and make a change to it right here, right now. As we continue to do this, confidence grows. The Pali word is shraddha or shraddha. It's not, doesn't mean faith, it means confidence based upon experience. That if you can clean your mind out right now, you can clean it out again. And you begin to have the confidence, no matter what happens, that dirty the mind gets, I have the confidence, I can clean it out again. So this is the part of the Eightfold Noble Path that's called right intention, which actually is better to have the change into right attitude. But the attitude is, don't matter what happens, I can handle it. Doesn't matter how loud the laughter is. Doesn't matter how many people are laughing at me. I'm still not shy. I can handle it. I can walk right out on stage and make a fool of myself. Okay? So when we have this 4th item, that together with the other 3 brings the mind together so that the mind becomes unified. We're no longer arguing with ourselves because we've already dropped the standards about how things are supposed to be, and we begin to be unified into reality. We're more interested in what's real than we are interested in what's supposed to be. We've been told our whole lives how you're supposed to be. You've been given a set of rules, commandments, precepts, laws, city ordinances, rules at school, merits, demerits, all of that kind of stuff, all the supposed tos, all the woulds, shoulds, coulds. We kind of let those go and start living in a unified way in reality. So now we've gotten 5 of the Eightfold Noble Path. The 5 are: 1, to wake up, to look at what's going on, number 2, to wake up and be here now, number 1, to see what's really going on with discernment. Number 3 is to make a change. Number 4 is to congratulate yourself for making a change. You can do this. Number 5 is that the mind settles into a unified state called samadhi. So those are the 5. Now, once you're in a state of samadhi, that means that you don't want anything anymore. You've given up all your wants and desires because you're already okay. So if you don't want anything, you're very unlikely to kill somebody to get it. Is that true?
Yeah.
If you don't want anything, you're unlikely to steal it. If you don't want anything, you're unlikely to lie about it. If you don't want anything, then you're unlikely to be jealous and complaining about the person who does have it, because you've got it too. You got everything you need, but you don't want anything. You're satisfied. And so in this regard, this is why Sila now comes at the end. And yet the way that it's taught to children is that Sila comes first. You got to learn to behave yourself, or you'll never sit down and figure things out. But once you do figure things out, now we start with the real noble path that starts with the wisdom to see dukkha. And if you can see it, you can change it. And when you keep changing it, you get the attitude, I can change it. Then you do change it, and you've changed it to the point that now you don't want anything. Everything is going your way. And in that regard, your right action, your right livelihood, your right speech, all come together naturally. It's not a set of rules that you follow anymore. In fact, we have to throw out all the rules in order to get that mind into a unified state so that we don't need any more rules. And that's the Eightfold Noble Path. You got that? Can you name all items on the Eightfold Noble Path?
Kind of tough.
Sati, Ditti, Virya, Samasankappa, Samadhi, Kama, Vicha, and the light livelihood. I don't think I remember that in Pali. But they all have Pali words for them, and they all are easy enough to remember in English. That's the Eightfold Noble Path.
Yeah.
Now, the beginner's path starts with the Sila, and then does the Samadhi, and then the wisdom comes. But nobody needs to practice that path. We can start immediately with the wisdom. Gain the mind to be strong and unified, not divided by our ideas or our woulds or shoulds or coulds, and just become unified. And then our Sila is okay, is perfect. It's good enough because we don't harm anybody. We're already okay.
Yeah.
That's the Eightfold Noble Path. And in fact, that's the summation of the entire teachings of the Buddha. That's the whole show. Dukkha, dukkha, nirodha. See the dukkha, come out of it. When you keep coming out of it over and over again, things cool off and you have an easy, happy life.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions about that?
I guess not really, but something I was meaning to ask is there like actually like a major difference between anapanasati and vipassana, or is that like the same thing pretty much?
Between anapanasati and what?
Vipassana?
Are you saying vipassana?
Oh yeah, vipassana. Yeah, I'm saying it weird.
All right.
It's,
Anapanasati is a formal practice. It's the only practice that the Buddha gave. The formal practice of anapanasati is, in fact, to follow the Eightfold Noble Path in all 4 aspects of the four foundations of mindfulness. All right. Vipassana is a word that is rarely used, if ever, in the suttas. The word vipassana actually just means insight, and that people who practice insights often their insight doesn't mean anything. Yeah, they can see it, but they're not doing any changing. So in fact, what we're talking about here is to look and see that that's an unwholesome thought right now. And yet most people say, oh, insight is like psychological archaeology. Oh, I remember the first time that I was shy. And because I remember the first time that I was shy, that makes me be able to handle my shyness easy. That's their kind of vipassana, is looking way back into the past to try to figure out the sources of how things happened. And the source is irrelevant. The question is, can you change that shyness right here, right now? Can you see that fear and say, ha, I am not afraid? Right here, right now. Okay, so you can use the word vipassana, but it's unnecessary. It's not a necessary word. The Buddha did not use the word vipassana.
Yeah.
That in fact, the word samatha, which is its twin, they fight each other. There is a boxing ring in Buddhism, and two of the primary contestants are vipassana and samatha. Samatha is actually in the suttas, and what it actually means is just to relax. Now, the reality is that if you cannot relax, you're not going to have insights. And also, if you have no insights, you can't relax. But in fact, the two of them work hand in hand together. If you have vipassana but you don't have samatha, then go get samatha. If you have samatha but don't have vipassana, go get vipassana. But the fact is almost everyone is in the situation that they don't have either one. So go get them both together. That in fact, you don't ever have to use the word samatha, and you don't ever have to use the word vipassana in order to practice the teachings of the Buddha, which is basically the Eightfold Noble Path of remembering to look at what you're doing and to make a change from the unwholesome to the wholesome. That's the start of the path. If you can't do something, then the entire teaching is irrelevant. And yet in the noting method, they just note. That's their vipassana. They can see it. They can see that poisonous snake right in front of them before they step on it. And then they step on it. But I'll give you a funny example. Imagine that you were walking down a normal sidewalk, and there in front of you, 10 feet away, is a dog pile. The dog has done it. It's new. It's fresh. You can already gain the aroma. There's three ways to deal with that dog pile. One is what they call choiceless awareness. This is the Tibetan way of doing it. It's just to proceed right through it and step in that dog pile. Then there is the Mahasi method, the noting. We're going to inspect that dog pile. Let's pick it up and take it into the kitchen. Slice it, dice it, put it in the blender, put some powder on it, maybe a scrambled egg, and let's really deal with that dog pile. But the Buddhist method, the easy way, is just to continue down the sidewalk, but don't step in it. Avoid it. Step around it. Okay? So there's another way analogy. Imagine that you're standing in the middle of a road and there's a big truck coming, bearing right down on you at high speed, blaring his horn. And you see that truck coming. There's three ways to handle it. One is to just let the truck run over you. That's the Vajrayana. That's choiceless awareness. The other one is the Popeye method of Mahasi, and that is to stand there and try to stop that truck. And then the third method, the Buddha's method, is see that truck coming, you just get out of the way. Let it proceed on. Don't deal with the truck. Just throw that unwholesome thought out of the mind and come back to the wholesome. This is the Eightfold Noble Path, the way that it's to be practiced, is to make a change. Don't let that truck hit you. Don't deal with that dog turd. Step around it. Get over it. This is the method of the Buddha. Is to see that unwholesome thought and throw it out and come back to a state of everything is okay, relaxed, safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfied. No vipassana necessary. What they would say then, the vipassana is to see that dog turd. Well, that's given. We already see it. We've vipassanaed it enough. Can you see it well enough to avoid it? Or do you have to really take it into the kitchen and really figure it out? That's not necessary. Also, don't ignore it and step right in it. Now, the only difference between the Vajrayana and the Vipassana method is how do you deal with it? Do you want to deal with it because you've got it slicing and dicing in the kitchen, or do you get it all over your shoe? And the right way to deal with it is not deal with it at all, just avoid it completely. No Vipassana necessary. You don't have to deal with the crap. Just throw it out. So, are you ready to go to that ordination?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're ready to go now. You don't have to be shy. You don't have to have them expect anything from you. Just be a guest.
Yep.
All right, Adrian. Well, I hope that I hear from you again soon. If you
Yeah.
really want to practice, call back. Start putting this in practice.
Yep.
All right?
Yeah.
We'll see you later.
Good talking to you.